Assassin's Creed is a series I have a funny relationship with. It was the first game that a friend recommended I play way back in middle school, as well as it being the first series that I decided I would play every single entry of way back when I was still on my old laptop. And then I got a bit burnt, metaphorically and literally. With Valhalla, Origins, even Odyssey made my old laptop so hot that it would slightly burn my fingers each time I tried to play it for more than 10 minutes at a time. Assuming, of course, it didn't hard crash the device all the way back to a full restart. So, as I need a bit of a quicker video to make, as I need a bit more time on my end for very, very important matters, namely playing Shadow of the Erdtree, which I am fully enjoying right now, though I will be interested to see how the community reacts to the patch that's going to be coming through where they're going to be making things easier. But all that beyond, I've decided to say a little goodbye to this series, at least for now, the same way I did to RWBY, ranking each aspect of it in a certain way, and this particular aspect being the games as a whole. It's going to be on a tier list with a slightly condensed version of my 1 through 10 scale, with it being 1 through 5, with half rankings being used to sort of fill in the gaps between that. So, I suppose that's about it on my end. Without any further ado, let's get started on ranking Assassin's Creed. Now that we have some let's touch on some finer detailings for this. I will only be ranking the games that I have a decent amount of playtime in, or that I feel I have enough of opinion on to truly rank. For example, Mirage. I took a quick spin on that one through a friend. I didn't end up buying or playing more than about an hour or so of it, and I don't think I will. I have some thoughts on it, but I don't think they're fully expanded enough to rank the same way I am doing so with the other games I haven't finished. Those being Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. But considering that that's the only major sticking point, let's start all the way back at the beginning of the series with Assassin's Creed 1. This is an interesting game for me. It's a decent start to the series. There's so many fundamental ideas that, unshockingly enough for the first game in a series, has been expanded on to such a point that it's become synonymous with Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft itself. With Assassin's Creed 1, it's, as I said, the start of the series. So much of it carried through to later entries. You know, such things as synchronization points, which later become towers, helping citizens, you know, just, it is, unshockingly enough, what happens, I believe, if you boil the older Assassin's Creeds down to their bare essentials. And with that, I'm gonna throw it as a solid actually, no, let's put it at like a solid 4. It's a good game, but there's so much that they can expand on with it. Now, next on our list, Assassin's Creed 2. This, I believe, is where most people think the series really went into its full stride. You know, you have Ezio, possibly the most beloved character in the entire Assassin's Creed series. And with it, it also polished it a bit more into maybe not the perfect game, but I'd say it's damn near close. This one gets a bit more than a 4. If it was on my full 10 scale, I'd probably give it an 8, but with this scale, I think it deserves a little bit higher than that. And now, Brotherhood. Here, this expands a little bit more. Again, it's a good game, but it's more of Assassin's Creed, the same thing plus. And I like it. It does a good job of what it does. But considering the fact that nothing... I just don't quite jive with it as much as before. This one is going to go a bit lower. About the same as 1. Just because it's... there's only so much difference you can make. But it is still about the same. Now, Revelations. Considering I don't interact at all with the Assassin's Creed community, I've only gotten smatterings of what people think of this, and it's, from what I understand, not the greatest in the wider community's opinion. Of course, it's still part of the Ezio trilogy, which is generally considered to be some of the best games made, at least in the Assassin's Creed series. So it's probably still up here, but I don't think it would be nearly as high as, 2, which is, the Golden Child. With that, I personally really like it. Seeing Constantinople, as well as... Personally, I enjoy tower defense games, so defending the observatories wasn't an awful experience for me, but I do acknowledge that not everyone was on Cool Math Games playing Balloon Tower Defense 1 during their lunch breaks when they got the chance. With that, let's give it solid 4. Not all the way up at the top, but it's pretty decent up there. Now, our first step into almost an open world. Hell, it's even got crafting. Mainstay of open worlds, as far as I can tell. But with it, story is alright. Main complaint with it, it has a double start. You're messing around as... Oh... Why can't I think of his name? Haytham. You're messing around as Haytham Kenway for, I think it ended up being 2 hours. And then, next thing you know, guess what? You get to do the tutorial all over again with little Connor. There has to have been a better way that they could have got that idea across, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. And as such, I'd say that this suffers, and I'm gonna drop it here. It's a 3. It's a quality made game. The developers clearly know what they're doing. I got enjoyment out of it. The animations, especially for Connor's kills, are absolutely brutal. But it's not anything I'd really write home about. Next, this is a game that I first played within the Assassin's Creed series. Before I had any interest in Ezio or Arno. Hell, before I even had interest in Altair, Eivor, any of the other big names. This is, to my mind, what Assassin's Creed is to me. It is a wonderful game, set in a decent open world, a bit bloated with collectibles, but that is what it is at this point. It's Ubisoft. You can't... I've started calling other games that have something like this Ubi-esque. You've got Hogwarts Legacy in that boat. But with it, Assassin's Creed Black Flag is, in my opinion, about as fucking close to a 5 as you can get. There are issues with it, of course. No game doesn't have issues, but quality game. I thoroughly enjoy it. Next up on our list, Assassin's Creed Unity. This is a weird one for me, because it marks a massive divergence from what I consider to be the best looking, in terms of feel, engine. I think the Kenway games, including Rogue, used Anvil Next or whatever. It's the one immediately after the Ezio trilogy. But with it, I don't jive with this as much. It lost its unique flair. Granted, a lot of that flair was in fact just them putting a color filter over everything, but that gave it style. It almost made it stand out from the rest of the open worlds you could get. And with it, well, I do agree that the animations are fantastic. I also think the parkour was a bit of a downgrade. Like, I understand that people love Unity's parkour, or at least some of them do when it comes to how it looks, but I just couldn't vibe with it. And that is completely subjective. So, with this, it's down there with Assassin's Creed 3 for me. Decent game, nothing to write home about. Painfully average. Now, a bit of a black sheep in the community from what I gather. Rogue. This one is interesting because you play as a Templar. Completely different from anywhere except Assassin's Creed 3 at the beginning, which was one of my favorite parts. But Shay is a really cool character. And another thing that massively boosts it, in my opinion, it's set in Canada. It is Black Flag Snow Edition. And I'll tell you what, you see where Black Flag is for me? You see how I look? I'm a skier. I love snow. Hell, if I could, I'd live in winter all the time. But I can't. But Rogue, with the North England, not North England, the New England area, along with the coast of Canada with Newfoundland and all that. I love this game. Are there problems with it? Massively. Is it its 10-year anniversary and I want to make a video about it by the end of the year? Also absolutely. That's on my list, hopefully after Shadow of the Erdtree gets finished. I will give you, Rogue, a bit higher than you deserve. I'd give it like a low to mid 4. Amazing game. I love it. Improved a lot on some of the stuff done by Black Flag. But I do also admit it's got its issues. Mainly the assassins and how they get the Templar treatment of being turned absolutely 2D, so much so that you think they were Flat Stanley. Now we have Syndicate. I'll tell you what, I do not like Syndicate. It's Assassin's Christmas, and oh boy, am I burning down the Christmas tree with this one. 2.5, it's a 5 on my normal scale, which means it was competently made. The game publishers made the game, and oh boy, did it come out. I don't like it. I don't like what it did to the parkour. I'm a fan of the counter combat system, as I believe part of the fantasy is it being high risk, high reward. And oh boy, the grappling gun was a mistake. I understand why it was there with the layout. and I don't like it. Also, parkour sucks. It it sucks in this game, in my opinion. Like, it's Unity, but slightly worse. Rogue's parkour, it's Black Flag's parkour. It is not the mainstay of the game, unfortunately. If it was, it could have been made better, but it wasn't. That's really all there is to it. Now we have probably the most controversial aspect of Assassin's Creed, the RPG trilogy. I like Origins. It's alright. It's, in fact, from what I was able to play, really, really quite fun. I don't quite jive with some of the changes. It very much seems like it's trying to ride on the coattails of a better and bigger game. But, at least in terms of its system, I'm not calling it a rip-off itself, but I don't like that open-world style for an Assassin's Creed game. We'll have to see how the other games handle it, but I'll give you a hint. There's a reason that they, for the second year in a row, won my Sir Crash-A-Lot award for end-of-year review, or end-of-year awards with games. Origins, it's not up there with 1 and Brotherhood. It's a bit lower. I'd call it like a 6, maybe. Decently made. I understand why some people really like it, but it crashes so much, I can't play it. I've played enough of it where I can formulate a good opinion on it, in my opinion. Opinions about opinions and all that. Like, I love where the story is actually going with it. Bayek is a really awesome character. I wish we got more like him and of him. And, yeah, unfortunately, the damn thing crashes so much because I'm near water. It doesn't like it when I'm near water. I've tried it on my new rig. It still crashes a bunch. Unfortunately, I'm caught in Alexandria, right on the Nile. So I get about 3 minutes to try and get away from the Nile, and then it crashes because I didn't get far enough. I've tried fast traveling, no dice. I'm considering starting a new playthrough, but I've got so much on my plate right now, I don't have the time. Odyssey. It exists. It's going down here with Syndicate. I understand why people like it. It could be a fairly decent game. I'm not massive on the lore of Assassin's Creed like some other YouTubers are, which, you know, take that with a grain of salt. You know, I don't massively care about the lore discrepancies, you know, how that changes, but I don't really feel like it's an Assassin's Creed game. It, of course, has some of the hallmarks, you know. You have an Eagle Companion, you have your sync points, you have assassinations, and even that, not really. It is so level-based, and it is a stat grinder. I understand why some people like it. In fact, just talking about it, personally, I'm moving it down to like a 2.5. 2.5, maybe 2. Again, I understand why you all like it. I also know that you're tired of getting dragged through the mud for saying that you like it. I do partially feel responsible for doing that online, not on video form, but on forums, but it's not for me. Again, I understand if and why you like it, but it is bloated to all hell. That side quests are aggressively uninteresting in my opinion. Again, it crashes so much that I can't finish it as well, so this is only an opinion formulated on, let me check my Steam. It is formulated on a whopping Odyssey. Formulated on 100 hours of gameplay. But I also am a bit of a completionist when it comes to the little Ubi-esque dots on the map. I need to grab them all. And that's hampering me. It's also hampering me. And Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I love the Scandinavian and Norse aesthetic. I really want to play God of War Ragnarok. I think it got released for a PC port. I'll have to double check, but I really want to give it a shot. I enjoyed God of War 4, or God of 4, as me and some of my friends call it. But Valhalla, it's bloated as all hell. Let's check my playtime for that again. Yeah, I've got 40 hours, which, in my opinion, should be enough to feel like you've gotten about halfway through a story. This one has so many twists and turns, and not necessarily in a good way, that I can't tell how far I am. Again, it crashes all the fucking time. I'm not a fan of the combat system in that trilogy. But it also just... it feels bloated. What can I say? You didn't need to make a one-for-one recreation of England with the kingdoms of Mercia and all that, but you did. I understand why you did it. It's your big selling point in these games, but I didn't think it was necessary. So, with that, as much as I dislike putting a game that I think could be a good game if you cut its playtime in half, and then just quickly scribbled out Assassin's Creed from the title, maybe put it as Animus Adventure Valhalla or whatever, that probably could work out for the better. One thing I do like, however, considering this is more retrofitting a problem, but assassinations are back, and they're kind of skill-based now. It's a very low skill ceiling game, but you have to click the button again at the right time when it's inside the little brackets. I think that's a good way to deal with it. And with it, guess what? Same place as Odyssey. I understand that you tried. Get better. And yeah, one of these days I might try and get back to the series, but that's it. And that is partially why I printed off Mirage and Shadows. I will be fully honest with you guys. I'm not going to play these. Like I said, I played a little bit of Mirage. It was not a time I fully enjoyed. It is very obviously, in my opinion, a DLC for Valhalla that got retrofitted into a game. Animation sped up to try and make the parkour look better, but these two games, their parkour fucking sucks. Like, I know I said that for Syndicate, but holy shit, I do not like the parkour in this. It is mindless, and I don't like that. I like to have to think about what I'm doing, which is partially why from here to, I'd say, about here is when you really had to think about it. And here, it's remnants of a system. It's been adjusted. This one also fits in there, but the new games, they just don't hit that same. So, with you, didn't and won't play. Yeah, that's about where that sits for me. I hope you all enjoyed this very impromptu, what is it turning out to be, like a fucking 25-minute tier list. Yeah, I'm trying to use the whiteboard a little more, if you can't tell. I enjoyed using it for the video that, what is it gonna come out on? Come on. Open up Google. Yeah, me figuring out the Jindosh riddle on... That's coming out the 29th. That's a Monday. It's a Is it a Monday? No, this is coming out on a Monday. It's coming out on Saturday. So, if you want to see my brain almost explode for a solid like a hour and a half that ended up taking like a full hour, in real time, check that out. I've been enjoying Dishonored too. But if you'll excuse me, I've got something else to run back to. Shadow of the Erdtree. It'll be interesting to see how the patch goes through. I do want to give a review of that in a little bit once I fully finish. It'll be like probably another whiteboard unscripted thing. But yeah, at this point, you all know the drill. Stuff down below, do it as you see fit. As always, I'm Sven, and until next time, this is Elvin Prince, signing out.